So they would sue your business and not you personally. Well, I guess technically they could bring a lawsuit against you, but you would use your business as the barrier between them and the lawsuit. So you wouldn't be personally liable. It would be the business that is liable. And like you mentioned, if you get your LLC, you get the insurance, then that lawsuit goes to the insurance company as a claim, and you may have to pay some, but largely, if the person is successful in their suit, it would come from the insurance company and not from you personally. And no one wants, their savings or their home or any of that to be up for auction. So you definitely want to make sure that you are able to protect yourself. And so that, I think, even beyond the tax benefits and the financial benefits that come with LLC, the legal separation is probably the biggest benefit that comes from it.
Excellent. Welcome, everybody. So I'm Lianne from Automation Dogs, and welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited because today we have Chante Dawston joining us from C-Squared Accounting. Welcome, Chante.
Thanks, Lianne. Very excited to be here.
And I'm so excited you're here because for me, I love saving money. I love the concept of building a business and making money, but I glaze over when we talk about books and numbers and stuff like that. So I think other dog trainers are probably a lot like that. So I'm really excited to bring you to the masses and share some of the cool stuff that you've been working on with your business. But first, would you share a little bit about yourself and how you got kind of started in accounting?
Yeah, so I'm Chante. I have been in accounting for a little over 15 years now. It's what I've studied in undergrad, and I actually got my master's in accounting as well. I am a licensed CPA in the state of Florida, but I can't work with people across the US because I'm actually physically located in Texas now.
Awesome.
But I kind of stumbled into accounting, to be honest. I was in school in 2008 as a freshman when the economy went to crap. And so I did an internship, and the manager that I worked with suggested accounting to me because I was kind of undecided, and I knew I wanted to do something business related, but wasn't sure what. And he suggested accounting because he was like, that's the one, degree where you'll be able to find some kind of work. He was like, and so I was just like, oh, okay, that's a fair point. Let me check this out. So I took a couple classes, talked to some upperclassmen that I knew that were in accounting, saw that I liked it, and I did pretty well in it. And so here I am, 15 plus years later, building a career out of it.
That's awesome. Have you heard of Dave Ramsey?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I was watching a
Everybody
video
loves
of
Dave
his,
Ramsey.
and he was saying that people who reach millionaire, level are teachers, accountants, and I think he was stressing that it's the mindset of my mom's a teacher, retired young, and the way she lived her life and the way she saw money, it really set her up for success, even though she was on teacher's salary. So um, good for you for finding this path, and
Thank
also
you.
for, starting your business. So C-Squared Accounting, and you've niched out to specifically helping pet focused businesses. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So you probably can hear my dog in the background. I have a Great Dane. I grew up with dogs, always wanted a Great Dane. Um, that was just too big of a dog for my mom, so was never able to get one as a child. And once I got older and things settled a bit, it was actually during COVID when I got to work remotely, that I just decided that it was time. So, his name is Brutus, and
Oh,
I've decided to help people that help animals like him.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I can hear him licking his paw in the background. We talked earlier and he's not licking his butt. So, as a pet professional, I can identify a dog licking something. So yeah, from all the way over here from Kansas to Texas. So, um, and tell me a little bit about the name of your business, C Squared Accounting. How did you come up with that?
So, I actually just kind of stumbled upon that, prompting ChatGPT and that type of thing. I knew I wanted something that kind of was similar to my name, but I didn't want to use my name. And working with ChatGPT kind of to get ideas, it kind of just came up, kind of mixing the C in my name and giving it like a kind of mathematical type
Mm,
feel to go with the accounting. Kind of just came along and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And I actually get that question more than I expected because most people think that it like actually is like some type of mathematical like formula or it like it actually has a true value. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's just a random thing that I came up with that I thought sounded pretty cool.
that's awesome. And I like it too because, as a business owner, I'm always thinking about like, hey, I may want to expand and help other businesses. I myself help pet focused businesses, mainly dog trainers, with providing them with some kick ass software so that, it makes life easier for them, helps them increase revenue. But I do have one child psychologist as a client. So it's nice having a name that speaks to everybody so you're not too limited in case you grow, which you will. So what
Yes.
I find with like myself, I said, like, whenever it comes to the books and stuff, I know it's critical, but I kind of glaze over. So, who are your like types of people that like need to find you? People that are a hot mess and needs, or maybe they're really good at their books, but they're so busy and they don't have that. They could use that time to maybe get more sales instead of working on the books. Like, who's your ideal client?
Yeah, so you kind of hit the nail on the head with both of those descriptions. So it's really those people who are looking for someone to be their financial partner,
Mhm.
people who, see the value in having someone that is an expert that can come in and do things faster to help them save time and who just knows, a little more about the accounting and tax space so that you don't have to research hours trying to figure out the things in the IRS code, or you don't have to spend hours on YouTube looking for videos on what deductions you can actually take or how do
Mm,
you do something in QuickBooks. You can just either come to me with the question if you're someone who is DIYing it and you just need a little support. Or, if you're like yourself, where you're like, I don't want to have anything to do with this, you, me, I'll do full service. We'll, meet occasionally to identify the things that can really help the business grow. But it's really, whether you're someone who's like, I can do this, or you're someone like, I cannot do this, I can help in both areas. There are different packages that I offer. And then I just launched a membership club for people who know they need a little help, but can't afford typical bookkeeping prices, or just are like, I want to be nose down in my books and in the details but know that they, need someone who they can ask those expertise questions that is available. So I just really want people to be in your shoes where they like know the value of knowing the numbers and how that can drive the business and increase their revenue amongst other things. And just want somebody to be on that journey with them.
yeah, having somebody in their corner. So you mentioned the word deductions. And I think a lot of us don't really know what some of these words mean or how to use them. Like it's a write off, that I did you ever see that show Schitt's Creek?
I've seen a couple episodes, yeah.
Okay, well, there was an episode where David was, I don't know, it's a write off. We just write it off. So yeah, um, can I write off my dog? I guess would be a question as a dog training business. Can I write off her food and things like that? Is that a write off?
It can be. So a lot of people are surprised by that, but even if it's just like your personal pet, if you use them in your business, there are ways that some of their expenses can actually be a write-off.
Fantastic. Are there any other like myths or words that people maybe don't understand, like profit, revenue, things like that, that you commonly see that maybe you could bring to light for folks that are listening?
Yeah, so I think uh not so much that people like don't know the terms. I think sometimes they just don't know which one is more important. Like a lot of people, want to focus on increasing revenue, and that's great, but if you're increasing revenue but not increasing your profit, you're not really doing much to help your business. So when you increase your revenue, you also want to kind of go hand in hand with finding ways to decrease your expenses so that your profit is going up on a per unit or per service basis. So I think profit is a better indicator of how well your
Mm,
business is doing. And that's something that people don't necessarily focus on. And profit is really like what you have left over after you've paid all of your expenses. And that includes like paying yourself. I know a lot of small business owners tend to want to wait until the end to pay themselves or take like very little amounts out of your business. It's okay to pay yourself when you're a small business owner. I've worked as a consultant for a lot of larger businesses, and those CEOs make tons of money while their businesses technically are not profitable. So you can work in a decent salary for yourself, and that's something that like I highly encourage people to do instead of, being super stressed and feeling like they just can't take anything from their business and just feeling like they have to pour everything back into it. It's okay to pay yourself. And then you find other ways that you can save, or, you get the business to a good spot where you can get a loan. Like there's a lot of things that you can do once you have a solid financial structure and a financial plan, that I think really helps. And I think that's a bigger problem that a lot of people have, is that they don't really
mm,
have a financial plan. They're kind of just winging it, which we all have
yeah.
to start somewhere. So no judgment. Um, but it's definitely better for you to actually, have a plan. And that's something that I like to help people with, is building out that plan, creating forecasts, all of that stuff that really sets you up for success.
So a plan, would that also be considered a budget?
Yeah, you could definitely call that a budget. Yep.
Okay.
That's a budget is a big part of it. I would say your budget is kind of step one of having a financial plan. And I'm glad you brought up budgets, because a lot of people think of a budget as kind of a constraint, and that's really not a good way to look at it. It's more of, a guide. And it's something that, yes, you should try and stick to it, but you should also be flexible and be reviewing it regularly. I would say at least monthly, and make adjustments. Like it's okay if your budget that you originally built doesn't work for you 3 months later or whatever it is. Like make those adjustments for, where your business actually is, for the cost that you're actually seeing come in. And it really helps you just get better. It helps you learn your business more because you're actually paying attention to where expenses are going. It's a good first step. I would highly recommend that if anyone out there doesn't have a budget yet to create something, and it can be very simple, just like something in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet.
And would that be a case of maybe just writing down all of your expenses and your profit and kind of seeing what's going on there in front of you visually?
Yeah, yeah. So what I would suggest is to like get like say 3 months worth of data, and then collect like what your revenue is for that 3 month period, what your expenses are for that period, and then kind of look get an average and then build out an estimate of what you think it would be for, let's just say, the next 3 months to come. And you just will say, okay, let's say like you feel like you got some growth coming. So you might want to add, a 15% increase to what the past 3 month average has been. And that's going to be your estimated revenue. So you'll put that number in, then you'll think about your expenses. You may say, well, my revenue is going to go up by 15%. I'm going to estimate that my expenses go up by 7% or something like that. And you build that into the average that you've calculated, and then just on a monthly basis, go back and collect all of that data again and compare what you estimated to what your actual results are, and then see like where things were over and under, where you could potentially, make some changes. Say, your utilities were, twice as much as you thought they were. Is it something that you need to change in the business? Or is it just that you had a bad estimate? Like you start to ask yourself those questions, and you can really, figure out where there's opportunity for you to do something different, something better.
Yeah, I like so what you're saying is looking at the data from the past to estimate and make a plan for the future so we're not just winging it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is part of the problem is people, when they think about building budgets, they don't think about looking at the past, and they just kind of grab things out of thin air, so to speak.
Mhm.
But that's not going to be beneficial to you. It's not going to help you in any meaningful way if you aren't looking at some of your historical data to see what's realistic. And then you also want to make those adjustments that I mentioned if you know there are things that are coming up. Um, like let's say that fall happens to be, a busier time for trainers when, families are starting to calm down from summer vacations and all that kind of things and are going to be a little more stable. So they decide to, get training. Then you would want to adjust your fall months so that you could capture increased revenue if you're planning your budget that way. But if you don't like ever look at your numbers, you may not really notice that you peak in the fall. Um, and those are the kind of things that having a budget and having that planning process can really help you start to identify. And you may realize that, like, hey, that's a time that I need to bring on a contractor to help out. Or maybe it's a good time to run some additional promotions. There's a lot of things that knowing your numbers can kind of lead to you making different decisions.
Yeah, definitely. Um, for pet sitters, for example, I know some slow down in the summer because maybe the kids are home from school and now they're walking the dog and they're able to let the dog out. Dog trainers definitely can have an ebb and flow. So it's good to know which months are, going to be bringing in a big profit. And maybe if you know, hey, well, January is going to slow down. So maybe we save for that or we reinvest the money into some ads or, some promotions or something because you know what's coming and you can make that plan.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps the surprises be less and less. I mean, there's always surprises, both good and bad in business, but it definitely helps you be able to weather the storms, so to speak. better when you are cognizant of what's happening in your business and those ebbs and flows. And I also like suggest like if people have someone in their network who is doing something similar, you know, have conversations with those people, especially if they're, a few years ahead of you in their business cycle about, what their typical patterns are. And you could consider building that type of information into your budgets as well.
Very good advice. Now, is can you tell us a little bit more about the group that you're setting up? Is it a group that I love the name, by the way, Mind Your Books. I love it.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Yes. Thank you. So, yeah, I ran across quite a bit of people who are like, I know I need some extra help, but I can't afford, five, six, seven, $800 a month or whatever, the typical bookkeeping price maybe. Um, and so I kept hearing that and I was like, well, there's gotta be, something that can be done, something affordable for people who know they need some type of expert support, but, you know, can't afford to have it completely managed by someone else. So I created Mind Your Books, and it is a community-based membership, where we will have monthly calls where you'll get to ask questions. We'll have co-working sessions. So for those people who are like, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for this is a way for you to be held accountable and to make time and to be with people who are in a similar place. And I would be in attendance in those sessions as well. So it's another opportunity where you can ask questions, but the focus will really be mainly on us getting things done for our businesses, myself included. And then we will also have different resources available for you. So, there'll be things like a tax cheat sheet. So you have those kind of deduction questions answered for you. Um, we would have guides on how you do certain things in QuickBooks, because that's a popular software that people tend to use to manage their bookkeeping. And I have a certification for using that particular software. So it's supposed to be a place where people can come and get help, but also be around people who are in a similar place and kind of just be able to support one another.
Yeah, I love those working groups too. And I think sitting down once a month is realistic to work on your books and go through all of your expenses. One of the things that I'm a money saver, but I don't really have a blueprint or a structure. I just like don't spend money. And I can say I love the feeling at the end of the month where I look and I'm like, oh, I saved this extra money this month instead of like, oh, look at my new clothes or all these coffees I bought at Starbucks. So I really do lean into saving money. So I just wanted to add that some of our dog trainers out there may want to just, or, businesses in general, just look at your spending and maybe consider that it might be more fun to have more money at the end of the month that you could reinvest into your business. Um,
Yeah, that's, definitely a good idea. And looking at your spending, it really helps you identify things that you may be spending money on that you don't necessarily need to. Um, like you said, both personally and professionally, there are
mhm.
probably things that we could all, trim a little bit. There may be subscriptions that you signed up to that you're still paying for, but not really using. Um, it may be, that you grab a coffee in the morning from Starbucks when you're starting your day before, you have your first client appointment. Maybe it's time to cut out the Starbucks for, a little while and see how that, adds up. So it doesn't take much to identify where you could potentially have some savings. Um, and it doesn't take much to just change your mindset around spending. Once you really, like you said, like see the benefits of it, it
Mhm.
just little by little you get those, endorphins that you're used to getting from shopping. You get it when you see the extra zeros in your bank account.
Yes, definitely. I really dig that. Um, and maybe could you share a little bit about like transformations or aha moments as you've been coaching business professionals, like anything that something we might want to hear about to know how you've helped people and how it's really like been a game changer for folks?
Yeah, I think the biggest game changer for people has been um, really realizing how much staying on top of the numbers can help at the end of tax season.
Mm,
Um, a lot of people kind of put everything off and are just like, oh, I'll get to it when I need to, so to speak. But I've talked to a lot of people who are just like, this conversation that we've had has been super helpful and made me feel more comfortable about going into tax season because they get a plan on how they're going to track their numbers. They get a plan on what are some of those things that they should be paying attention to that they might have not already been thinking about? And it's simple things like there are people out there who, don't track their mileage or
mm.
they're not, using an app, which I highly suggest that, you use an app. Or people who, like we talked about earlier, don't realize that expenses related to the animal that they use in their business could be deductible. So they aren't really paying attention to those. So it's um, the aha moment I've seen has just been people realizing that a little bit of preparation goes a long way.
Awesome. And I think sometimes in businesses, we of course want to hire, we want to grow, we want to scale. I assume you can help with like, hey, W-2, 1099, what forms the staff member needs to fill out and what those look like.
Yes, definitely can help with all of that. Can help get payroll set up. QuickBooks offers a payroll system that you can use, and they pretty much do everything for you. So I help people get those types of things set up. And in a lot of states, it's very, very important and also very nuanced on whether someone can be a 1099 employee, a contractor or an employee. So we help people kind of make sure that they're walking that line appropriately. And then when you are in that place where you're expanding and you've brought on employees and things like that, there are like more deductions that you can take advantage of. If you offer some type of, retirement plan or insurance or what have you, there's a lot of opportunity for you to save there. So it may be, increases out the door initially, but on the back end, you have the opportunity to save yourself. And I know a lot of people in the pet space kind of do things together, like with their families. So, there are opportunities for spouses to work together and
Mm,
maximize savings by, one being the business owner and the other being an employee. So there's definitely a lot of ways that you can maximize things where it benefits you personally, and it just kind of flows through the business.
fantastic. And the Mind Your Books Club, is it a club or is it, what are you calling it?
Um, I call it I guess you could call it a club. I
Group?
just refer to it as a membership.
Okay.
Um, but it really the kind of key thing I like to highlight is that it's very community based. I think that is the thing that kind of is the game changer for it, is that you have people who are having similar struggles as you. So, if you're that person who doesn't really like to ask a certain question,
Mm,
it's very likely that someone else has that same question and is able to kind of voice it for you, or you get the answer through them. And it also just gives you the opportunity to have a single source to get your information instead of having to go multiple places and wonder if things are correct. I know everybody loves the AI resources now, and I will be honest that they are pretty useful and they have a lot of good information. Um, the problem with AI when it comes to the accounting, the tax, and finance world is that it's not yet able to be super nuanced. So you have to know exactly what you're asking it and ask it the right way to make sure that you're getting the right answer.
mm.
And so that is kind of my caution to people when they just, want to ask ChatGPT a tax question. Um, the other thing I think that is really good about my yearbooks and the fact that it is there to be a resource for you is that we'll constantly be updating resources. So, tax code is always changing. We just saw the one big beautiful bill come out, and there's, a lot of things that have changed there. And if you're using an outdated resource, you'll have a
Mm,
completely, different answer to something, and most of us don't keep up with, changes to the tax code, especially when things happen super often. The one big beautiful bill I would say is kind of an exception to the rule where they made a big deal about everything that was changing. So most people heard about it, but I would say, on a normal basis, people aren't keeping up with the changes to the tax code. So it's a place where you can go and know that you're getting the latest information.
excellent. Thanks for that. And then where can folks find you? And, I definitely am getting your emails. I love that you're putting out regular emails to kind of help bring awareness to what you offer and how you can help folks. But how can people find you? Share your website, socials.
Yep. So they can find me at csquaredaccounting.com. That is the best place to go. You can learn a little bit more about me, about the business, and book a free call to get to know me a little better. Um, you also can find me on Instagram. It's C Squared Accounting is the handle. Um, and I am also on Facebook. My name, Chante Dawston, is there, and C Squared Accounting also has a business page. I also have a free group. It's called the Positive Financial Hub.
Okay.
So we try and post little updates there, and people are able to share wins. So yeah, if you're just, looking for a free space to connect with people in the pet space, and ask some questions, that is available as well.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And I know there's probably a lot of dog trainers out there that and pet professionals and just people in general that like they're basically running their business out of their personal account, and it's just, when is tax time, and they're not having employees fill out the right forms. So I think like handing that off to someone who's an expert to handle is fantastic. But this Mind Your Books Club sounds great because I think it is good as an entrepreneur to at least lean into that stuff a little bit so that you know what's going
Mhm.
on. Just like with me with dog training, when I first started training dogs, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to learn everything about dogs and dog behavior, dog behavior. But coaching clients, running a business, working my leads, bookkeeping, all of that stuff, it needs a percentage of your efforts, because these things are really important.
Yes, that is very true. And I definitely say, like, if you're just starting out, it's definitely good to kind of get the basis around those things. just so that if you do get to a point where you're like, I can't do this anymore, like you're able to ask, good questions of your accountant and you're able to like really vet a good accountant and make
Mhm.
sure that it's someone who is really there to help you and support you and who has your best interest at heart, as opposed to someone who is just, trying to make a buck.
Yeah, good advice. What would be some of the questions that they might ask if they're shopping around for someone to help them with their books and their accounting?
Yeah. So I would ask about, what exactly their services are. Like, everyone says, oh, bookkeeping. Well, I would get clarity around like what does that mean? Is it just that they're going to be inputting and categorizing your information and that's it? Or, are they going to provide you with some type of reporting once all of that's done? Are they going to have calls with you to explain things? Will they identify red flags that they see in the
Mm,
business for you? So just really get clarity on what exactly the services are that people are saying they're going to provide for you. Especially like around tax as well. Like, do you just want tax compliance, which that's a word that you'll hear a lot of people in the accounting space use. And that really just focuses on the preparation. But if you're someone who like really wants to maximize your savings when it comes to taxes and get the additional credits and deductions and all of that, you may want something more on an advisory or tax planning is another kind of term that you'll hear used for those types of services. So just make sure that you are clear about what the service entails.
mm.
So ask as many questions as you need to get the answers. And I know accountants, myself, I'm guilty of this, sometimes speak in terms that not everyone knows. So make sure
Yeah.
that when you, excuse me, when you are speaking to someone, like make sure that they're able to clarify things in a language that makes sense to you, something that, you understand because you don't want to be, in business with someone who is going to constantly be talking over your head or, using words that you don't quite understand. You want to make sure that they can communicate to you in a way that works for you because like I said, not everyone, went to school for accounting and knows all of the words and terms that we use. And I definitely recognize that and I try to make sure that I'm communicating clearly when speaking with clients. And I know not every CPA does that. Um, and I think another big thing that I would make sure to ask is like, will they be available for you at least like, you know, by email or something like that to get questions
Mm,
answered? I recently was speaking with a client and they had a question about the information I had provided them. And so I went and just walked them through like how I got to the calculations. And like they were so shocked by it. And it took me like all of 5 minutes, but
mm,
the accountant that they had worked with previously hadn't done that. They actually hadn't even met with the CPA that they were working with previously. They had only met with someone in her staff who didn't have, the expertise to walk them through at the level of detail that I did. And I was pretty surprised by that because it literally took me like 5 minutes to just walk them through what I had done and how I got to the final number that I was sharing with them. So I would, ask questions to make sure that you're going to get what you need out of it.
yeah, that's good advice. And I've definitely been there where, my accountant was not getting back to me. And it's very frustrating. I was selling a business and it was like, dude, we kind of need to hear from you. So I love that you're saying this. And I know already from personal experience with you that your customer service is amazing. So that definitely gives folks confidence.
Thank you. But yeah, I try in my business as well as in personal life, to treat people the way that I want to be treated. I know that's kind of a bit of a cliche, but I do think it is an important way to live and to run a business.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would be like an actionable, easy tip for someone that's kind of a hot mess and doesn't even have a budget? Obviously, joining your group or your club, Mind Your Books, would be a fantastic first starting point. But even before that, like to even not that you probably have them prep or anything, but like what would be something actionable that's easy that a hot mess business owner could start to implement?
Um, so the very first thing I would say that if someone does not have a separate business bank account, that is step one. Like you absolutely need to
Mm,
manage those finances separately. So that is the step one that I would say that everyone should take. If you're past that step, I would say setting like a weekly reminder
mm,
to look at your bank statements is a good place to start, just to make sure that, there isn't anything that looks weird. It just
mm,
kind of gets you in the mindset to start checking on your business. And, looking at your bank statements or looking at your bank account is a pretty, easy first step to take. It also kind of gets you to start looking at cash flow, which is something we didn't talk a ton about, but is also one of those very important things in business. So those would be my top two is get a business bank account if you don't already have one, and then set, a weekly date with your business where you are reviewing your bank just to make sure that things don't look too crazy. And then as you expand and have a little more time to give to your business, then I would, put more time on that weekly check-in and start looking at more of your costs at a more detailed level.
One of the things that I did with, I use Bank of America, and I went in and then I turned on like every possible notification. So if I use my debit card and it's over $100, I'm going to get notified. So just all these notifications are coming in. So if there's something really bad, I'm going to get a text message, but my everything gets just emailed to me. So I find like it reminds me like of my balance every day. I don't have to go in there and look, but even though it's getting sent to me and I don't have to go look, it actually is kind of encouraging me to go look because it's top of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely a great idea. Like, if you are someone who feels like, I'm not gonna stick to doing a weekly check-in, or, things are just gonna get too busy, definitely set up those notifications so that the information is coming to you. Whatever you can do to kind of start to get into that mindset of just taking a look at things and not waiting until, something bad happens, or not waiting until, that, you know, big win comes through for you.
Mm.
You want to be prepared either way, good or bad, and want to make sure that you always know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I like your tip of putting it on your calendar to do that weekly check in. If you have a credit card bill that's due, or rent, or your whatever is due on a certain date, you can even add maybe those items to your calendar just to make sure
Yeah,
that you take care of it if it's not automated.
yeah.
Awesome.
I definitely think it's great to plan out as much of those things as you can. And you can use your weekly check-ins to say, hey, I'm going to, prepare myself for the next week. So you could look at those things like, okay, what's coming up that I need to pay for, and make sure that like you have the funds for those things. And if it's looking like something's going to need to be paid late, you can maybe get ahead of it. And if you're renting out a place, call your landlord and say, "Hey, I might be a few days late. Is there, something that we could work out to where I don't have to pay late fees or something like that?" Generally people will work with you if you get ahead of things. So it's definitely good to to make that time to kind of check in on things and make a plan.
Yeah, I like that advice. I mean, during COVID, I know many dog trainers who had a facility and were forced to close down. So just calling the landlord and figuring it out. But even now, if something comes up, and you gotta, call your landlord and see if you can work something out. I like that tip a lot because sometimes we get stuck and it's like, just make a phone call. Maybe we can figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes for the bank too. Like, a lot of people don't know it because they get afraid to ask, but a lot of fees, banks will waive them if come in and you tell them, hey, this is the first offense. I've been a customer of yours for
Oh,
5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is. Could you, please waive this fee this one time? Sometimes they do say yes. It's not 100% guaranteed, but sometimes they do, and that could be, an extra $50 that you get to keep
yeah.
just because you picked up the phone and, spoke to someone for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Is Bank of America okay, or is that a bank that you don't recommend? I think they have a lot of fees. Maybe I should call
Um,
them.
yeah. So I think most of the big banks have a lot of fees, unfortunately. Your Bank of America, your Chase, I think all of them do. But you definitely could give them a call as well, especially like if you're a long-standing customer who typically, has good, pay histories and, don't typically like have overdrafts or anything like that. Like a lot of times they are willing to give up a few bucks to kind of keep that
Hmm.
good customer service and the customer relationship. Because them being able to, keep your thousands of dollars and invest it and do the different things that they do to make money is definitely much more important to them than them getting the $50 from you once every
Yeah.
5 years or 10 years or whatever it is.
And when is your next Mind Your Books meeting?
So we are having our next official meeting on November 10th.
Okay.
Um, and that will be a Q&A session. So anyone that is interested can join us now. We are running a promotion for the next couple weeks where you are grandfathered in at a $69 a month price. So definitely if you are interested, now is the time to join. It will always remain a affordable community, but the price will likely change sometime next year. So I would encourage everyone to join sooner rather than later. And then I mean, this is, a pretty new membership. So I am looking for feedback to make sure that people have the community and the resources that they really need and that they really feel like will kind of take them to the next level. So it's an opportunity for people to kind of build with me and make sure that they're getting the value that they need from it.
Excellent, excellent. So November 10th, that's a Monday. So I will make sure because we are not recording live. So I will make sure to get this podcast out to let people know about this so that they can be part of, the savings too and getting grandfathered in.
Yes, that would be great.
Awesome. Is there anything else, Shantae, that you would like to share?
Anything else that I would like to share? I would say, and I've kind of said this already, but preparation is definitely very important. And so if you aren't doing even, the smallest thing to understand your numbers and to have some type of handle on your books, I would recommend starting somewhere, doing something even if it's just grabbing a spreadsheet and writing down, your total sales each month, and your total expenses, like something is better than nothing. And if you are someone who has not yet opened a business bank account, but you have registered your business, please, please, please go ahead and get the business bank account. I promise. It is a small thing that will make life so much easier.
Yeah, registering your business. And I know we're kind of laughing, and people listening are probably like, that never happens. It happens. I've seen it, and it's like big time, yeah, entrepreneurs, and they just
It,
aren't doing those little things that, I've always been like, we got to register the business and we got to have insurance and things like that. So,
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things that people, are doing out there that would surprise most people. And I mean, and by IRS rules, you don't actually technically have to, like, register your business if you're working as a solopreneur or solo proprietor is what the IRS term is. Um, but when you don't do that, you open yourself up for
oh,
more risk,
hmm
from a legal standpoint. And then you also are not able to tap into a lot of the benefits that come with actually being a registered entity. So I would definitely suggest that everyone start out with an LLC and then we can kind of go from there.
and just to expand on that a little bit so people understand. So if someone sues me because of my, something happened with their dog or something like that, if I have an LLC, they can't take my house. And is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah. Yep. So they would sue your business, and not you personally. Well, I guess technically they could bring a lawsuit against you, but you would use your business as the barrier between um, them and the lawsuit. So you wouldn't be personally liable. It would be the business that is liable. And like you mentioned, if you get your LLC, you get the insurance, then that lawsuit goes to the insurance company as a claim, and you may have to pay some, but largely, if the person is successful in their suit, it would come from the insurance company and not from you personally. And you like no one wants, their savings or their home or any of that to be up for auction. So you definitely want to make sure that you are able to protect yourself. And so that I think even beyond the tax benefits and the financial benefits that come with LLC, um, the legal separation is probably the biggest benefit that comes from it.
Excellent, excellent advice. So I thank you so much. I've learned so much, and it's definitely an area of business that I glaze over. So I am going to be leaning into this more. I hope that folks really will take advantage of that grandfathered rate that you've got for Mind Your Books. And I've seen your Facebook page and you said there's a Facebook group as well.
Yes. hmm There is.
Okay,
It's called the Positive PAW Financial Hub. If you find me and you're interested in that free group, I can definitely direct you there.
awesome. And I've seen Brutus in your emails and stuff. How much does he weigh? He seems like he's a pretty big guy.
Yes, he is 158 pounds. We
Hmm.
just went to the vet couple weeks ago and he got weighed. And so, yeah, we're monitoring his weight because the vet said 160 should be his max.
Oh, poor
So
Brutus.
I'm trying to get him to lose a couple pounds, but he has other ideas.
I guess you have like a big van or something to truck him around in.
So I actually just have a Jeep Grand Cherokee and
Okay,
he just
he'll
takes
get
up
in
the
there.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he takes up the full back, and, the rare times that we do have, like, other people in the cars of, like, friends or family come and visit, he is very frustrated by, like, someone being in the back seat with him.
That's so funny. Well, he can drool on them, so he can show them.
Yeah,
Awesome.
he does, like, a lot of huffing and puffing, he's very much like a small child.
A big child. That's so
Yeah.
cute. Well, thank you, Chante. I appreciate you so much and what you're doing for dog trainers, groomers, pet sitters, dog walkers. I think this is so needed, and I hope that folks will listen and able to get some good takeaways from today and join your Mind Your Books club. So thank you, Chante, so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you to our listeners. So again, Shantae is with C Squared Accounting, and I am Lianne Shinton from Automation Dogs. And Shantae, just stay on at the end, so we'll chat for a little bit after we finish the recording. And thanks everybody for listening.